What if the life you want is already trying to find you, and all you need to do is get out of your own way? In this episode, I sit down with Julie Ann Lee, a transformation coach, spiritual guide, and the founder of the Allow Method. We talk about what it really takes to live a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good from the outside. Julianne spent years chasing external success before realizing that peace of mind and purpose don't come from proving your worth. They come from remembering it. We dive deep into the patterns that keep high achievers stuck, why people-pleasing is actually a form of control, and how to reconnect with yourself when your mind is just too loud. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, Nick Brax, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew, so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how to let go of control and find what truly brings you joy. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Julianne, so nice to meet you. Thank you for making the time to talk to me, and a fellow Australian, and we happen to both be in LA at the moment, so there you go, in the same time zone.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you for having the conversation with me.
Appreciate it. Before we get into it, can you give just a bit of a background on yourself and the work you do, just so our listeners can learn a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. Well, as you said, originally from Australia, and I've been in Los Angeles for longer than I've been in Australia now, which is quite daunting. About 2006, I did work in the entertainment industry. I thought I wanted to make movies, and I came out to LA for that, which was great. And I worked in development, got up there and got a couple of those. You know, they throw you the associate producer credit if you've been there long enough. So I got a couple of those. But I kind of realized that it wasn't my dream. You know, I like going to the movies and doing the development stuff, but I didn't actually tangibly like making the movies. And I just always had this way of speaking to people where they would tell me stuff, you know, and I just fervently believed if they had a dream, why weren't they doing it? Because I wasn't sure of what my dream was. And then about 2006, you know, I did my little bit of writing letters to the universe and back, and that what came back was life coach. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Number one, what is that? Number two, no way. I was so judgy, like airy fairy woo woo, not doing it. 20 years later, that's what I've been doing, certified transformation and mindset coach for life and business. And it's been my gig for 20 years. You know, I've only ever worked through referrals, and just had the dream of, you know, working with people and taking them from basically fear to faith, inaction to action, get them out of their head and actually take their dreams and get them on the path to actually put them into reality. So it's just thrilling for me. And my bent is on a spiritual lens, like I was sort of come from a spiritual foundation. And so it's just this game of life that's really, you know, it's never perfect, but it's just a great sort of experience to be able to work with someone and see them change, and then see the excitement as they start to see their reality shift based on what they change with their internal story, and just really empowering people in that way. That's kind of I'm kind of very selfish here, Nick. I'm like, if people could live the life they want to live, right, then they're going to be coming from a place of giving, which means you go out into the world from this giving state instead of what am I going to get? And I think that would fundamentally shift the world. So that's my hidden agenda.
Well, I don't think that's a selfish agenda. I think that's a very selfless agenda, because, I mean, we all, if we can come from that place, and I mean, that, I think, like you're saying, though, it's really the only way to be fulfilled and to probably sustain the work you're doing. You've got to love what you're doing, but it's got to come from a place that's, you know, deeper and bigger than yourself, because like whenever I know when I've been operating from that place of um, desperation, of needing validation, of whatever it is, it's exhausting, it causes anxiety, you burn out, you start hating what you're doing. But when it's come from the other place, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
the feeling's amazing, and it's just so grounding, and you want more of it. So I think it's a win-win if we can have that mindset of how can I do this for that bigger cause, for whatever that is. Then you can sort of never stop tapping into that. It's always there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that thing of, I think a lot of the times we come up with these ideas. I think we're kind of geared to, we do things because we want to feel better, right? I always say this, even with people that have addictions, have anything, they're just trying to make themselves feel better in the moment.
Mm.
That's the goal. They want to feel better. They want their head to stop talking. And that's just, it has a negative impact in the long run. But, in the moment, they just want to feel better. And so we make these choices, whether it's a relationship or a career. And if we're trying to go from the outside in, eventually it will hit a wall, because only the primary relationship is with ourselves. And if we can work on being secure in ourselves and knowing our worth, which is we're worthy just because we're here, period, right? Because we're breathing, that's worthy, and that's our foundation. And then we let our creativity and ideas of what we want to express in the world come through us, then they are much more fulfilling, and they are an extension of who we are, as opposed to trying to make the outside world somehow validate us, because it's just never going to do it for the long term,
It never
and that's
will.
where a lot of us get stuck. Mm-hmm.
No, it never will. And I mean, you live in LA, and you can look at these, huge actors, musicians, whoever they are, these major celebrities, and if that was the solution, there wouldn't be so many, drug problems, mental health issues, relationship breakdowns, just
Absolutely.
all of these different things. Like, no one's immune to it, and you see it on the highest level, yet we sort of still idolize that, even though it's not the solution.
Yes. Yeah, if we put that on a pedestal, and it's like we're putting on a pedestal probably the most detrimental thing to our mental health and everything else, which is we care what other people think about us.
Yeah.
And I'm in here with myself 24 hours a day. The only person I should care of what they think about me is me. And if you actually, it's not perfect. My clients, our goal is to, like, I call it, I don't know if you can not give it SHIT, about, that's our goal. Like, your goal is to not care what anyone else thinks about you and what you're doing, because the truth is they don't. Because the great thing about being in LA is most people are obsessed with themselves, and they're really not thinking about you.
Yeah.
So they get that, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm like, so you have complete freedom then, right?
Yeah.
You have so much freedom to be and who and express. And that's when, true creativity comes through. There's like those actors who you don't really hear much about, like great actors. I'll point out like a Robert De Niro, right? You don't really know much what's going on with him. You know what I mean? But I feel like just from an outside view, that he's just got this inner confidence, and he's not interested in what anyone else thinks. He's just doing the work,
Exactly.
And it's like, that's when your pure joy comes, because you don't need that outside validation that is so fickle, because we're marketed certain things, right? It's a system of, this may be a bigger concept, but it's like, it's this system of, how can we make you feel bad about yourself so you will buy my stuff to feel better? Because ultimately that's what we'd like, your money.
Yeah. And these are, core human insecurities that, are being preyed on. But in the world we live in now, this is everywhere in the world with social media, the way the world's become 24/7. Everyone on some level is having this stuff put in their face and fighting, if not succumbing to that urge of needing to validate and do all of these different things.
Mm-hmm. Which is like, for me, it's hell on earth, right? Because you were then trapped by this outside influence, and the freedom is free. The freedom is to know your worth, right? And it's work to know that, because you, as you said, you're human, right? So we go out and we're like, oh, have a look, oh no, and come back. So these daily practices that I have my clients do of, meditation. If there was a drug I could push, it would be meditation. I'd be like, I tell them, it goes breathing, meditation, and all meditation is having a thought and letting it go. That's it. Whatever that your practice is for that, that's great. And then just sort of, your thoughts become things, right? So if your thoughts make you feel crappy, this is how I got to this solution. I'm not very like I'm pretty logical. So when I was on this path, I was like, my thoughts are making me feel crap, right? So even if this is all hogwash, right? When I choose a thought that is nice to myself, I feel better.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm going to do that for a while. You
Sounds
know?
better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just better because I'm living with me 24/7. So why am I going to listen to that voice? Because I come from a place of like self-hatred and judgment and
Yeah.
you're awful, like horrible. Like when I get all my clients to look in the mirror and write down all the crap their head says to them as a first step. And when I did it myself like many years ago, I was like, oh my God, no wonder why. This is going around in my head 24/7. And
Yeah.
I'm in charge of that.
Yeah.
And by in charge of that, I'm agreeing to it or I'm not agreeing to it every single moment that thought comes. And so we think that's just who I am. And it's like, no, you just keep agreeing to that thought until it became a habit.
And exactly. And like you're saying, a lot of it actually is logical, but because our emotions are so strong in how we feel about certain things, we ignore the logic a lot of the time. But at the end of the day, we can't really control much, but we can control how we react to our thoughts. We can actually control that part of it. And these things, I've done the same thing. I think so many of us have, where there's this self-hatred, where just beating ourselves up 24/7. And if you pause and think, hang on, like if I was talking to someone I really care about, would I ever say any of these things? Or how would I react if, someone was talking to this person I care about like that? You'd be horrified, yet we do it to ourselves. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and it's like, if we think about it, right? I mean, I believe in the universe, right? And energy and spirituality. And I'm like, who am I to judge myself, right? Because what a miracle that I'm even here, right? My brain thinks without me really thinking about it. My arms move like I'm a walking miracle. We're all walking miracles. The fact that we're all born, and then we criticize that, which is and then we criticize this, and if we cut ourselves, it heals itself. Like, what are we doing where we've come to this agreement that something is wrong with us because of what something's projected outside of us that we think we should be, when if you look in and you actually look at the miracle you truly are, you'd be like, oh my, I'm so sorry, universe, for mistreating, the body that my spirit decided to come in this time,
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So what are some, you were talking about how some people do know what they want to do. They have a dream, but they're just too scared to go and chase it. What are the main things that come up in the work you do of the reasons why they're afraid? Are there sort of core things that come up time and time again that people are afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, at the core, it's always an enough issue. I can always pare it down to I'm enough. So it's either I'm not enough, I'm a piece of crap, or I need to control the world and everything in it. So it's this dichotomy of I need to be the universe, or I'm a piece of crap and I don't deserve anything. And so I think most of my clients I call them recovering overthinkers. They're really, really smart, really not helpful when you're trying to be in the flow with life. And so a lot of it is about getting out of our head. And actually I'll be like, okay, when we first start working together, it's like, let yourself have the dream. Because most people, they'll have a dream, but they'll have a dream of what they think is possible and if they can think about how this could work. And so I really get them to go within and express the dream of what's rising up from within them, like what wants to be expressed through them, as opposed to that outward dream, oh, if I get that, then I'll be happy. But because true happiness, sometimes you think, for example, it's going to be the mansion on the blah, blah, blah. And then if you actually think about it, you're like, okay, you're hiring staff, you got security, you got this much money, and you're like, is that really your happiness? And they're like, no, I just want to do what I want and go lay on the beach and read a book. I'm like,
exactly.
Okay, well, let's match the dream to that, And so then it's coming up with this big dream. And then, of course, we come up with what are all the fears? Let's get all those out. Let's go to the bottom of those fears, get to the core of them. Let's switch those into affirmations just so we've got the programming differently. And then it's about taking inspired action. So it's not willy-nilly action. It's action that comes through us by connecting to our higher self. So we'll meditate and, you just get this, it doesn't necessarily happen during meditation, but, you'd be in the shower, you'd be like, I should call such and such or this or whatever. And then you follow that before your head talks to yourself, oh, they don't want to hear about me, or they don't want to hear. No. The idea came to you. Just take the action, let go of the result. It's planting seeds. We don't care if they don't call you back. Doesn't matter. Really don't give a damn. And the other thing I try to get clients to do is we're so used to wanting, right? We want this thing that we're actually not prepared to have it. We don't know what the having is. And I believe that we get what we are, not what we want. So we need to be in that having, I call it vibrational state, having, matching feeling, so that we can actually match what we want and we can draw that into us. So that would look like living from the end, I would call it. So if you wanted to have X, then if you had X, how would that feel? Because you might be like, well, I can't imagine it. It's not in my reality. So yeah, but you can feel the feeling of what that would feel like, right? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, your job is to cultivate, practice feeling that feeling state as often as you can during the day. And from that feeling state of having, the actions that match that having state will come to you.
Yeah.
And this is the game I love playing, because it's like, and then we look back and they're like, how did that? And I'm like, you don't need to know the how. If you could have figured it out for the 20 years you've been trying to figure it out, you would have figured it out. Yeah. You don't need to know the how. This is a faith issue, not a how issue. And so it's kind of this daily practice that then becomes very fun as you become a witness to the movie unfolding of your life. Because I don't believe that a dream is put in you and then the universe says, that's not going to happen. No. We say no by I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't believe, and we get in the way. And if you've interviewed a lot of people and a lot of successful people, and the people that look like they're doing what they want to do, when you speak to them, it's like they just believed. It's that simple. They believed. There was like no shadow of a doubt it was not going to happen.
100%. No, I think it's, and the attachment of this very specific way that it should happen, like you're talking about there, doesn't really make sense, because that we don't know how it's meant to happen. We can sort of know in broad strokes, what we're wanting to do, but then by taking the action, we're going to learn, we're going to go in different directions. Maybe even what we thought we want will become adjusted into, something else. And I guess if I look at from my own experience, one example for me has been, my career's been in mental health, public speaking in this area. And then the other part's been in the entertainment world, and, had some acting jobs in Australia, and I, really wanted to pursue that as well. But I was attached to the idea of, I want to, be this credible actor. I want to do it this way. I need to do blah, 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 blah. And I started hating it, because I originally really enjoyed it when I got into it. And then I just was crippled with anxiety, because I was thinking, how on earth am I going to, while running this company, doing all this stuff I love, I want to do the acting, but how, I'm being told you have to do it this way. And all these acting teachers saying, unless you do nothing else and you're all in and you're auditioning 10 times a week. And I was trying to do that and got burnt out. And, let alone even if I had the time, just the feeling of being just, not having the creative control over my life and having to just go for all these auditions without any sort of direction or feeling of direction. So I just stopped. I moved to New York and completely stopped for 2 years and said, I'm just going to focus on myself. I was launching my book, the podcast, whatever. And then within that, if you're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbrax.start.page. Somehow, like maybe 6 months in, I had a friend say, hey, you should look at writing this idea for a script, sort of based on some of my own life. And it just planted a seed, and I was thinking about it. I was like, actually, it's not the worst idea, and that sounds interesting.
That's so Australian to say, it's not the worst idea. We always sort of catch a little bit. It's not that bad.
Exactly. It's exactly our way of looking at things. Yeah. And I started I sat on it, and then I started making notes, and then it turned into, fleshing out this idea. Then it turned into bringing on these comedic writers, and then I started taking it to networks, and I brought on, these different producers, and, fast forward to now, I mean, it hasn't been made yet, but we've got, now we've got major networks looking at it. We're getting closer, but the bigger part, whether this gets made or not, the bigger part that came out of it was, I love the work I'm doing, and I love being creative, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I want to, with it, I want to act and I want to produce, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
do it in a way where I can be entrepreneurial about it and I can tell my
Mm-hmm.
own stories and do it, and then I fell in love with that whole industry again. But
Yeah.
that direction wouldn't have come if I did what everyone kept telling me I needed to do and
Yeah.
stayed attached to how I thought I meant to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that the process is so hard to not, to let yourself go within that, I guess.
What you're talking about too is like this. I'll simplify it too. Is what you did was you got in pain, you got in enough pain that you let go, and then you went and focused on joy, and then it flipped back around. And that's the
Mm,
formula, actually. So to skip that painful part, you just focus on the joy. And the truth is, if there was one way to do it that everyone tells it, everyone would be doing it, and everyone would be whatever they want to be in Hollywood. There
mm,
is no one way. It's not true. Um, so if you
yeah,
just follow your joy, right, then as you said, yours is such a great example too, because you just nailed everything. So now you're so enjoying the process, the movie unfolding, that you're not attached to the result anymore.
mm,
Whereas most of us are like so attached to the result that large chunks of our life, which is our life, are not enjoyed in the pursuit of this goal, which the goal is going to last all of about 30 seconds, maybe, right? But
exactly.
if you're feeling that feeling of joy throughout the whole process, now you're a master creator, right?
Yeah,
Now you're
yeah,
really enjoying life. And whatever comes, it's kind of like, oh, this is part of the plan. It's almost like when the show happens, that's just like the cherry at this point, you know?
exactly. And you become humbled because beforehand it was exactly like you're saying, wanting. I think it's acting is one of the entertainment industry is probably one of the worst in terms of producing that anxiety sort of
Yeah,
mindset and attachment, because it's looking at what other people are doing, thinking, oh, if I get this role, but then I need to get that, and then I need this body of work, and then I need this thing, and I need to maintain this level and this status, and it's like, well, it's just almost impossible.
yeah. Compare and despair basically most of the time. Correct.
Yeah, and it's like, how can there's no end to it. Whereas now with this direction, it is sort of more that thing of, oh, I'm not really thinking any bigger than if just this show got made. I'm like, wow, if that was the only thing I ever achieve in this entire industry, I'm like, how cool would that be? That would be,
Be
I would get to
awesome.
produce and tell a story that I've actually come up with and work with these people. And I don't care if it goes no further than that even. It's
Yeah.
just such a different mindset. But it's, again, I guess I'm in LA at the moment. I caught up with some actor friends, and just hearing the way they're talking about things, I was almost shocked because I've sort of removed myself so much from that world. And
Yeah.
there wasn't
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a 30-second period where the conversation was able to be not around just talking about other actors, about this, about that, and whatever else. And
Yeah.
it's just interesting when you come back into seeing, that conditioned way of thinking, how stuck you can be in it.
Absolutely. And like what you think about, you bring about, and it's like, so it's this, and it's interesting because for me, the love of movies is like, I love movies because it makes dreams possible. Right.
Yeah,
And yet
yeah,
the industry, I always say LA is the best and the worst of everything, right? It has complete faith and complete fear, and you can
yeah,
land either way. And if you want to go into the fear bank, and criticize and compare and despair, and then people see it's real. It's like, it's real because you're talking about it that way. So you're calling forth that experience for yourself. If you really want this other bit, it's going to take you work on your self-esteem first, because the reason you're in fear and all that sort of stuff is because you don't believe you're enough. Because if
yeah,
you believed enough, you wouldn't care what anyone else was doing.
yeah,
So we project that onto other people, and very few people get that turnaround. And actually, then, I mean, it's so much more freeing when you're like, oh, I do have so much power. I have absolutely so much power of how what life reflects to me. I'm not a victim of circumstance or powerless. And when I work with actors too, they're like, oh yeah, but I have to get a job. They have to give me the job. And I'm like, whatever you're vibrating at, you're going to draw the job to you. And as you're
mm,
saying, or you go create it yourself, whatever speaks to you, you
yeah,
know? It's like we're
exactly.
either looking for excuses or we're looking for reasons for.
Yeah, yeah, and just understanding that, if you never get the job, you actually are enough and you're okay. Like you're saying, like it's
Yes.
not. Maybe it would be frustrating because obviously we all need to have a career and we have goals and we should aim for, as aim to do the biggest, thing we can, or aim to make it as far as we can, but not feel like the absolute core important things in life are going to really, change regardless of that. They shouldn't be sort of codependent. It should be the things that are really, really important should be there regardless of whatever the hell happens in our career and all these different areas.
Yeah. Well, you see what happens when people are dependent on outside circumstances, because outside circumstances and opinions, they all change. They all waver. They all change. And it's like, even as an actor or an athlete or whatever it is, it's like, it's not your identity. It's something you do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that's who I am. And it's like, don't put yourself in that box. You might also, you're a friend, you're a brother, you're a sister, you're a father, you're a person. It's like, that's just one version of you. Don't limit yourself. Like, because if you do, you just trap yourself, and it's so painful when you believe, and you come from a place of, I'm a piece of crap. For me, that's the definition of hell on earth. It's just horrible.
And you're also, I mean, the funny thing is you're doing it because you're wanting to validate yourself and be seen on a certain level. But if you sort of have that mindset of, oh, I'm an actor and I'm going to prove to the world how amazing I am when I get to this level, what you're not realizing is if you are that one-dimensional, if anyone's done any amount of work on themselves, and that's actually all you think you are, even if you were Brad Pitt, that's not impressive, because you're just a performer then. Like, what about the other parts of life? Do you have other skills? Do you have, deeper meaning behind, why you're doing what you do? What else are you, like, we want to be more rounded than just be this one thing. Like, that's not actually an impressive thing to get to if that's what your whole life is about. Like, we need to be more rounded than that.
Well, obviously it won't be ultimately fulfilling, especially when you said, like, I'm going to, show the world how important or impressive I am. It's like, just show yourself how impressive you are.
Yeah.
Do that, and that's the flick. Like, show yourself how impressive you are, and the world will reflect that back to you. It's the other way around. It doesn't work like, you show me, then I'll believe. It's like, no, believe, and then it'll, like you said, your friend, out of the blue, friend just said, passing comment, hey, what about this? Okay, not that bad, and then all of it, you know what I mean? It's like, you didn't try, you weren't sitting like, what am I going to do? It's just like you were like, I'm going to just focus on what brings me joy. Yeah, that's the easiest thing. And when you start doing that, I have some clients and they're like, I don't know what to do, because they've never thought about it. They've always been on a mission to achieve. And I'm like, start with doing what you prefer. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, eat what you'd prefer for breakfast. When someone says, where do you want to go for lunch? Tell them what you'd prefer. Like, you need to cultivate who you are, because you've been trying to fit yourself into, like, oh, I need to look like this, or I need to do this, or I need to wear this. And you don't even know what you like. So you need to get to know you, and that joy you're seeking, you're going to be like, oh, then it becomes a thing of like, life becomes very focused. And you may seem like, oh God, I don't have a ton of people around. It's like, no, you don't, because if you're focused on something and you're enriching your life, then unless someone's bringing enrichment, that limited resource you have, that is time, that we sometimes think is unlimited, which is not, you become very precious about what you do with your time and who you spend it with when you value yourself.
100%. Yeah, it's so true. I've noticed that, dramatically in the last 5 years. I think if I look back now, I can't believe how much of my time was sucked up by just keeping all of these people around. I'm a recovering people pleaser, being a chronic people pleaser, and falling into just having all of that. But looking back now, like, my life's very simple now, and I really am so conscious of that, because it's just, you can chew up so much time, so much energy by allowing too many people in your life. You have to be selective about that. It's crazy how debilitating that can be.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you brought up the people pleasing, because I like to have a bit of a spin on that, which some people might be like, that's a bit harsh. And I throw in that's the Australian card. But with my clients, because they are also recovering people pleasers, most of them. And we actually get to the point where I help them understand that people, and I was one of them too, people pleasing is actually a very controlling way of being in the world. Yeah. Because you are so concerned about what someone else wants. and you want to appear a certain way to them, that you accommodate them, it's actually quite, and you get to, when you're a people pleaser, you usually don't share too much of yourself. You know a lot about the other person and accommodating them, and they're quite happy to talk about themselves incessantly as well. So it's a real controlling way to be in a relationship. But what it's really doing is like, enabling you to be in control. And so when you let go of people pleasing, there's a big vulnerability there because you have to let go of control and have faith and trust that you're enough,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Because you sort of, and you fall into, doing it because you tell yourself, oh, it's because I care about people. And it's actually
Yeah.
because, no, you don't care about them.
Yeah.
It's,
You care about how you
it's,
look to them.
yeah, it's borderline narcissistic. It's just
Yeah,
really
a little bit.
trying, and it's using people a lot of the time, like it, and a
Yeah,
lot of the time, the people that respond to it are probably using you as well. So you end up using each
totally.
other, but it's
Yeah. But
we
it's
need
an
to get honest
inauthentic
about it.
relationship in the end, isn't it? It's inauthentic. It's like not actually a true relationship because I would do that. I had lots of people that would call me their best friend and that, and I'd be like, in my mind, they're an acquaintance, But because I was so, I played that role so well, people felt very comfortable revealing who they are. I didn't say much about myself. I rarely talked. I'd ask
Mm,
a lot of questions. How controlling is that? I know everything about you, don't know much about me.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. It's so interesting. So interesting. So you're talking about a lot of these people that are struggling to take action maybe on their dreams. How often do you find that someone has a goal, like, sort of like what we're talking about, they might be attached to whatever it is they're wanting to achieve, and they've got this big dream, and then when they do the work on themselves, they realize they don't actually want that at all. Something else is revealed that's entirely different that they weren't aware of because they were just chasing the attachment to that specific dream and what they thought
Hmm.
that would,
Hmm.
mean to them, and they're identifying with, what that would be.
Yeah, a lot of the times that does happen. A lot of the times it's about reconfiguring the motivation for what they're doing and they reconnect to their higher purpose with that. It's really interesting too. It's like, because it's about helping. I always do the inside work and the outside work. So a call is about doing the internal steps, but it's also about taking the outside actions. And so, every week they'll go away and actually take tangible actions, towards their dream, but we always letting go of the result. And so we are pivoting a lot, right?
Mm.
We're pivoting where we move, and sometimes people are confused, like, I don't know where to start. And I'm like, just pick a spot and we just move in that direction. We'll invite the universe in to guide us. So it'll be revealed the next step. But most of the time, people have a good, if anything, a lot of the times the dream is a little bit bigger than what they were prepared to say,
Mm.
or it's sort of something that they might talk about one dream and then they didn't see how this could make money or how this could do this. So they didn't even mention it to like 4 calls in. And I'm like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What'd you just say? Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we talking about this thing if that's what you really want to do? Oh, well, I didn't think that was possible. I go, okay, well, we're going to couch that. Can we give this 100% and see? Because even if this
Mm.
isn't the quote unquote result, that's the path that's going to lead us to your true fulfillment,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
So as you said, sometimes it's just about, taking those steps, and you don't need to know any further than the next step and the
Yep.
next step and the next step. And the more, and then all of a sudden you've like got a whole, trail behind you and you're at a different destination, but you didn't have to look up the top of the mountain. You just looked at your feet. I always say that
Mm.
analogy, like even in the Runyon Canyon and stuff, you look up the top, you're like, oh my God, it's so long. Oh, okay. Just look at the ground and you just look at your steps and all of a sudden you're like, oh, what a great view. Oh, we're here. This is fantastic. Oh, I love it. Oh,
Yeah.
let's go down and do it again.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I love that. And by taking those steps, is there normally a sweet spot where, you have your passion or something, whatever it is, and then what your actual, skill sets are, or where your strongest capabilities are? Is there somewhere in the middle normally where it meets, where there's a sweet spot of what you're capable, your capabilities versus the passion, finding an
I think
intersection?
I think most people, their capabilities do meet their passion. Like
Right.
you're usually passionate about what you're good at. It
Yeah.
makes you feel good doing it. It doesn't mean you can't cultivate the craft and you might be a beginner to start with it. But that thing that you'll spend your time doing, the time passes, usually the indicator of passion. So I'll ask that to clients if they don't know, because some clients come and they don't know their purpose or what they're meant to be doing. They're like, I have no idea. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. What am I meant to be doing? And so we'll start with, what do you spend your time doing? Like when you have no time, and they're like, oh, I always love looking at the real estate section.
Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbrax.start.page.
Newspaper every weekend is my favorite thing to do. I'm like, oh, why is that your favorite thing? And you start sort of looking at what is your natural inclination for, and then why is that, and what do you like about that? And then you sort of open up to like when people come and they're like, I don't know what job I want, I don't look at job titles. I look at like, what activities do you enjoy? And then we'll find the career that matches the activities that you enjoy, and sort of back our way into it. Like I didn't know, like I loved asking people questions. I believed in spirituality. I had all these things. I didn't know that was a life coach. Right? That was a job. If you had to tell me, I was like, whatever. But, so we can sort of back our way into, once we get clear on what our purpose is, that purpose can show itself in an array of activities. And why not choose the activity that's most joyful?
Makes sense. I love that. Yeah, I love the way you're talking about it there. It just simplifies it so much for people. Makes it so much more clear.
We're so smart. We make it so complicated. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's really not. We just want to, we're overthinkers. Bless our cotton socks. We just need to press pause, stop it, which is what I go back to, like people, I always say, like I had an eating disorder back in the day, and I was like, the first bite was like, oh, my mind would stop talking for a second. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it really took me 10 years to meditate because I couldn't sit still. I was like the twitcher. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Because my mind just kept thinking. And now I have peace of mind most of my time, that when I don't have peace of mind, it's like, oh, this is weird. This is a jarring thought. It's like, I used to live like that with the chatty mind, commentary, negativity, worry, fear, you name it, 24/7. Exhausting. No wonder why I wanted to use whatever you could at the time to check out,
Yeah. And is that addictive for people? Like being in that chaos becomes the comfort zone. So then when you do start to sort of explore trying to change that and, remove things, it almost becomes, even if it is bringing peace of mind, it's kind of scary because that's unknown.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying about we're so used to wanting, right? So we're so used to being in the chaos that the calm is kind of jarring at first. And so I'll talk with clients and say, if it's in a relationship, I do a lot of internal steps. My goal with relationships is to get people to not want to be in a relationship. That's what I do, because then they're actually in the having state, and then they actually attract a person who's secure, and you know what I mean? All that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, then they're like, okay, great. And I'm like, okay, now the real work's going to start. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, because you're going to start self-sabotaging. Because now you've got what you wanted. You're not used to being in this having. So you're going to subconsciously try to get yourself back to what's comfortable. So we're going to practice being comfortable and leveling up your level of comfort, that this is your new normal. You know? So I'll be calling out a lot of excuses. I had this one for one client, and she was like, met her ideal partner. And she was like, oh, he's a bit short. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. Okay, we're going to have to come with someone else. Come up with another reason before you don't go on another date. Like, they're married and got kids now. But it's like that, it's like they're looking for like, oh, well, mate, this is too good to be, no, I'm so used to not having, and they're just like, and your mind is so convincing. She was like, oh, he's a little bit short. I'm like, really? Okay, that's a good one. You're going to have to, work a bit harder. Not do that.
Yeah.
And we do. And it's like, it's so interesting because it gets us back to our, that's why the continual cultivation of self-worth and enoughness and, just being secure in ourselves is the key to, a joyful life, because basically when you're in that state, which is not dependent on anything else, everything's enjoyable, You could talk about the power of now and all these wonderful teachings that people have out there that they go back for centuries. They're all the same. We all just say it in different ways, and it's just like, if we could just keep it really simple, and really keep our alignment within ourselves of that, okay, the universe is this is what I do anyway. The universe is my source. It's not my job to figure anything out. meditate daily, and if the thought doesn't make me feel good, choose a different thought. Just do those 4 things in a day.
Love that.
Your days, it's just keep it simple, you know.
Just simplifying it. Yeah, absolutely. Because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, and even what you were saying with the relationship example, my current partner, when we were first together, because my pattern had normally been chasing the dopamine, looking for the next best thing, fantasizing about what all of these, what the relationship's going to be. And with her, she had done quite a lot of work on herself, and it was quite grounding. And there was no games, and I started saying to her at the beginning, "Hang on, this is too easy. What's going on? Why?" And then
there's something wrong.
Something's not right, and I almost ruined the relationship because I subconsciously was trying to sabotage it and trying to run away. And I was scared to dive into it because I'm like, "Hang on, this can't be right then, because it should feel more exciting." Because to me, it didn't feel exciting if it wasn't chaotic and there weren't all these different things going on.
Yeah.
So, it was interesting. Sort of.
That's amazing, though, that you were able to figure that out. That's really great that you were able to sit with that.
I think the credit goes to her for putting up with me through that.
She was like calling you bluff. She was like, "Listen, this is what you're doing because I know what you're doing. So, okay. Oh, wait, are you over it yet?" Yeah.
Exactly.
But you're right to the point. I've got other clients, and they're like, they're so used to that, and it's like, it's not meant to be drama. It's not meant to. It doesn't mean you don't have, meaningful conversations. It doesn't mean you don't have conflict even or disagreements. But it's just like, it's not meant to be because as you probably experienced with that extreme high, then they came crashing down, right? Then it was like it blew up just as much the other way, I'm sure, many times, and that doesn't feel good for anybody.
No, it's not how you want to live your life. Exactly, it's not. Doesn't give you peace of mind at all. So love everything you're talking about here. For anyone listening, if they're feeling stuck and they're relating to a lot of what we're talking about, what would be just a very first step they could take to try and get out of that, stuck place they're in?
If they want to go a bit woo-woo and they're willing to do my favorite tool, I call it the universe letter. And so what you do, it's usually talking to your higher self, right? The universe could be whatever you choose it to be. God, energy, higher self, whatever speaks to you. So you literally, pen to paper, dear universe, I'm feeling stuck about blah, blah, blah. I would love blah, 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 blah. Whatever your question is, whatever your concern is, love your name. Immediately write back, dear, your name, and write the answer that comes. Now your head's going to be like, that's just me talking. Yes, it is. It's your higher self talking. This has never not worked. Where clients will send me their letters, they're like, how the hell did this come out of me? Look at this answer. I'm like, yeah, this SHIT works. It really works. Like the answers are within you. You just got to quiet your mind enough to listen. And that pen to paper, it just gives you a moment where just write. And at first it may take a little bit to cultivate it. You might be like, I don't even know what I'm writing here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Julianne said, write this letter. I'm writing this. You might be writing this down, right? But it will come if you practice it. A funny little story is my sister, when I first gave her this letter, she had an issue. And I said to her, okay, Deb, we're going to write this letter to the universe and back. She's like, all right, I'll go do that. And I called her, texted her the next couple of days. I go, so what did the universe say? She goes, I'm still waiting. I go, Deb, you got to write the letter back. She's like, I go, my bad. Maybe I didn't say it clearly enough, but you got to write the letter back.
Yeah, it's not going to magically come back. You got to write it.
She's like, and then she did it. She's like, okay, this works. And it was really, really funny. So write the letter back. Don't be afraid. And some people, I had one client who was so resistant to wanting to write. These always pop out of my ear. So resistant to wanting to do the universe letter because she was afraid of what the universe was going to say. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have that belief. We like, if I really tap into my higher self, I'm not going to get what I want. If I really let the universe choose my partner, the universe is going to choose someone that, maybe they're smart, maybe they're this, maybe I'm not physically attracted. Like we have this fear that it's going to be bad. And so then we have to look at like, well, what are we believing in? Because I believe in this energy that's like the sun, right? And we're just these little rays coming off the sun and it's all goodness. And the universe only wants my life to be magnificent. So I can let that be in charge of my life, right? Because that's like a good thing. But if you don't have that and you've got this old belief, I mean, I was raised Catholic, although a lot of people raised in religions have a different viewpoint of good and bad. So that also might be something for people to negotiate too as they're uncovering their unstuckness.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at Nick Brax. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
100%. Yeah, there's so many levels. I guess it's uncovering all of these different levels of it.
Yeah.
And where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Great. Thank you for asking. You can go to my website, which is julie-annelee.com, or on Instagram. And then I have an Allow app called allow.passion.io. You can also download it on Apple and Android. So it's Allow by Julianne Lee. And that has a bunch of free tools, like the universe letter I just talked about. I have that free. So you can go, it's called DM the Universe, and it's got the universe letter and the universe box. And there's got, I let a couple of the meditations be free. So if you haven't meditated before, there's a 5-minute meditation that will show you how to have a thought and let it go, and a bunch of other tools. I just want to have resources, for people to use without necessarily, if you don't know me, it's kind of an intro into the work that might give you some more comfortability to trust the process.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm going to try that out myself. I'm going to do the universe letter. But anyone listening, make sure, I'll have all of the links in the show notes, so make sure to check them all out. We finish every episode with 5 closing questions, so these can be sort of whatever comes to mind for you. But first one is, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind?
My best childhood memory that comes to mind, I think I was playing with our neighbors on the street, right? You'd just be out on the street, and then when the lights come on, like the street lights come on, it's like, oh, everyone's got to go in. And then Christmas morning, the parents would negotiate that we'd all get bikes, and so the neighbors were called aunt and uncle. And so it was just this street of like kids all the same age. And it was just so fun.
Such a nice like community sort of feeling having that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think's currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
I think it's kind of what we talked about. It's that outside in phenomenon, instead of being like that, I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. It's like, if we could cultivate in our youth that they are in charge of their thoughts, right? And that they are magnificent because of who they are, at least give them a touch point to go when their head tries to tell them something different, and if there was a way to really help them anchor into that they're enough and they're okay, I think that would really help them when their mind wanted to tell them something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the not alone thing too. So being not alone about it too. I think when you share a thought, most of it be like, I think I just told myself I was a piece of shit. Oh, sorry, I keep saying that seems to be a very strange word. That if you share that, some other person's probably like, oh, I do that too, right? Yeah. But I think sometimes we think, especially in mental health, that we think we're the only ones having these thoughts. And it's like, no, we're not. And so there's power in sharing that thought with someone, but sharing it with someone that's going to help you move on to a better thought, not hang out with you in the crappy thought. Would be
exactly.
beneficial.
Yeah, you don't want to fall into that victim mindset and be around that. You can do it on both ways, but that's really why, I fell into the public speaking space 15 years ago, really just shared my story, and I keep, I'm still doing it to this day because, like you're saying there, people, and I know whenever I hear someone else's story that I relate to, it's like this wave of relief of, oh, I'm not alone. Fuck, maybe I can work through this, and this person's been through it, and they did this and this to get through it. And it just gives us that connected feeling, because we tell ourselves all these stories that, what's wrong with me? How come it's this other person's able to deal with this, and why am I such a piece of shit, like you're saying? All these things we fall into.
And like judging someone's outsides by and think we have no idea what's going on in their mind, as you probably see many people's out, they made a choice that you're like, didn't see that coming. And it's like, because we assume things about people because of their outside, instead of having those conversations that are more deeper and connecting,
Yeah, 100%. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Oh my God, it would have been so good for you to like yourself. Right? Just to be okay with yourself. Like you if you just had the confidence that you were enough, and that you didn't need to become, or, just that constant it would have been very freeing. It would have been, a lot of different choices potentially. I made a lot of low self-esteem. I said they call it the biggest disease on the planet, LSE. I made a lot of low self-esteem choices that, it's okay. It made me who I am now, but probably would have been a bit of a more joyful ride back in the day if I had not such low self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. If you look back, like God, if I look back, I like that. The LSE, low self. It's so true. Because it's oh God, I can't. It's crazy to think how different things could be, but it does lead you to where you are. But you still could just avoid a lot of the bullshit if you.
Exactly. A lot of things like, well, good. I'm glad I'm still here. I put myself in that position. That was not a good choice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, final one. What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I think changing and still being willing to change. I think sometimes I need to know everything. So it's letting go of that, and staying teachable, and just really I have completely changed my life. From the low self-esteem choices, getting out of a bad marriage. I'm the sole custody of my 2 kids. I did, at one point was heavy, I had 65 pounds on that I didn't need to be carrying around. So I dropped that physically, and just really, not perfectly, but continuing to the best of my ability, walk the talk. That's what I'd be most proud of, to continue that.
I love that. Well, yeah, amazing work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing all of this.
Thank
I know
you.
Our listeners will, they'll take a lot out of it, and
I hope
it's
so.
fascinating what you're doing. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Julianne Lee, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or send me a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.